The morning sky above Seoul turned black at exactly 9:47 a.m. Captain Dae-won stood on the observation deck of Defense Station Gamma, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. The massive alien ships appeared without warning, blocking out the sun like a curtain of metal and darkness. "Sir, we have 300 contacts," his communications officer reported, her voice shaking. "They're everywhere, over every major city on Earth." Dae-won set down his cup carefully. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The ships were enormous, each one large enough to hold a small city inside. Their hulls reflected no light, making them appear as holes in the sky itself. Within minutes, every screen on Earth showed the same image. An alien face appeared, its features sharp and angular, with too many eyes arranged in a circular pattern. When it spoke, the words came through perfectly translated into every human language. "Humans of Earth," the alien said, its voice cold and mechanical. "I am commander of the Krell Empire. Your planet occupies a strategic location in this sector. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Resistance will result in total annihilation. This is your only warning." The message ended. The screens went dark. Then the panic began. In Geneva, Admiral Wu Jin convened an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. Leaders from every nation filled the room, some in person, others appearing as holograms. The argument started immediately. "We must negotiate," the European representative insisted. "Perhaps we can offer them resources instead of surrender." "With what leverage?" Wu Jin asked quietly. He pulled up tactical displays showing the alien fleet. "Our best scanners can't even penetrate their hull plating. We know nothing about them except that they have the firepower to turn Earth into dust." "Then we evacuate," someone suggested. "Get as many people off-world as possible." "To where?" Wu Jin shook his head. "Mars? Our colonies there hold maybe 2 million people. Earth has 10 billion. There's nowhere to run." While politicians argued, a young fighter pilot named Jae-sung sat in his cockpit aboard the carrier Incheon. His squadron had been scrambled the moment the alien fleet appeared. Now they waited, engines hot, for orders that might never come. "Do you think we'll fight?" his wingman asked over the private channel. Jae-sung checked his weapon systems for the 10th time. "I think we don't have a choice." Across the city, in a laboratory deep beneath the UN Science Directorate, Dr. Hae-won studied the alien broadcast. She played it again and again, analyzing every detail. As a xenobiologist, she had spent her career preparing for first contact. But she had imagined it differently. Peaceful, scientific, hopeful. Not this. Something about the Krell commander's speech bothered her. She couldn't identify what exactly, but her instincts screamed that she was missing something important. Her assistant rushed in. "Doctor, they want everyone in the shelters. The military is preparing a defensive strike." "That's foolish," Hae-won muttered. "We know nothing about their capabilities." But the strike went ahead anyway. Admiral Wu Jin authorized it personally. Better to test the aliens' defenses than wait helplessly for 72 hours. From his station, Dae-won watched Earth's most powerful weapons launch toward the alien fleet. Railguns fired tungsten rods at incredible speeds. Nuclear missiles streaked upward on pillars of fire. Plasma cannons, humanity's newest technology, sent bolts of superheated matter toward the dark ships. The Krell didn't even bother to dodge. Blue shields materialized around each ship, absorbing the impacts without a flicker. The nuclear explosions looked like fireflies against their hulls. The plasma bolts splashed harmlessly across their defenses. Then the Krell responded. 3 beams of crimson light lanced down from the fleet. They moved faster than anything human-made. Defense Station Alpha, orbiting above North America, exploded into fragments. Station Beta over Asia lasted half a second longer. Daewon watched in horror as the third beam targeted his own station. "All hands, evacuate!" he shouted. "This is not a drill!" The beam hit as Daewon ran toward the escape pods. The entire station shuddered. Bulkheads exploded. The artificial gravity failed, sending people and debris floating through the corridors. Daewon grabbed a handhold and pulled himself toward the pod bay. Behind him, the station tore apart. Ahead, he could see the pods launching, carrying his crew to safety. He reached the last pod and threw himself inside just as the hull breach alarm reached a scream. The pod ejected. Through the tiny window, Daewon watched Station Gamma break into pieces. He had served there for 5 years. Now it was gone, destroyed in seconds by weapons humanity couldn't begin to understand. His pod's radio crackled, a message from Earth, from Dr. Haewon's lab. "Captain Daewon, if you can hear this, I need you to listen carefully." Haewon's voice was urgent. "I've been analyzing the Krell broadcast. There's something wrong with how they communicate, how they move. I think they have a weakness, but it's not technological. Don't engage them directly. We need a different approach." The message cut off. Daewon's pod began its descent toward Earth, the planet now under siege. On the ground, people watched the sky with fear. The alien ships hung above them like dark clouds that would never pass. Some prayed, some fled to the countryside. Some gathered with their families, holding each other close. Jae-sung finally received his orders. Stand down. The brief battle had proved what everyone feared. Earth's military was no match for the Krell Empire. Admiral Wu Jin stood alone in the command center, watching reports flood in from around the world. The aliens hadn't attacked further, but they didn't need to. They had made their point. Humanity was outmatched. He thought about Dr. Haewon's message, the one she had sent to Captain Daewon. A different approach. But what could that possibly mean against an enemy with such overwhelming power? The countdown had begun. 72 hours to decide the fate of Earth. 72 hours to find a miracle. Above the planet, the Krell fleet waited in perfect formation, 300 ships arranged in geometric precision. Inside those ships, thousands of alien minds prepared for what they assumed would be an easy conquest. They had done this before on 100 worlds. Humans would be no different. But the Krell didn't understand what they faced. They saw humanity's primitive weapons and assumed they knew everything about this species. They were wrong. Earth's real power had nothing to do with technology or firepower. The Krell were about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The Krell invasion began on the 3rd day, exactly as promised. Dropships descended like falling stars, targeting major cities across the globe. Seoul was one of the first. Corporal Yuna crouched behind an overturned bus, her rifle ready. She had been ordered to defend the civilian evacuation routes. But when the first Krell soldiers emerged from their landing craft, she forgot her training for a moment and simply stared. They were tall, maybe 3 meters high, with armor that seemed to grow from their bodies rather than being worn. Each one carried weapons that hummed with energy. But what struck Yuna as strange was how they moved, perfectly synchronized. Every soldier stepped with the same foot at the same time. When one turned its head, they all turned. When one raised its weapon, 50 others raised theirs at the exact same angle. "They move like dancers," whispered Private Namgil, crouched beside her, "like they're all following the same music." Yuna watched as the Krell advanced down the street. A civilian car suddenly swerved around a corner, the driver panicking. The Krell stopped, all of them at the same instant. They stood perfectly still, as if waiting for instructions on what to do about this unexpected obstacle. Then, together, they opened fire. The car exploded. The Krell resumed their advance, still in perfect unison. "Fall back," Yuna ordered. They couldn't fight this. Not yet. Not until they understood what they were facing. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Wan hadn't slept in 3 days. She had compiled every piece of data about the Krell, their broadcasts, their ship formations, their attack patterns. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. "They're connected," she told her team. "Look at this." She pulled up video footage from battles around the world. In Tokyo, Moscow, New York, Lagos, everywhere the Krell fought, they showed the same behavior: perfect coordination, no individual decision-making. When communications were jammed in one area, those specific Krell units became confused, slower. "It's like a hive mind," her assistant suggested. "No, more sophisticated than that," Wan said. "A hive mind has a queen, a central intelligence. This is different. They're networked, every Krell connected to every other. They share thoughts, experiences, decisions. It's like they're all parts of one massive brain." "How is that even possible?" Wan pulled up biological scans they had managed to capture. "See these structures in their neural tissue? I think they're organic transmitters. The Krell aren't individuals in the way we understand it. They're nodes in a vast consciousness that spans their entire species." One of her colleagues frowned. "If that's true, how do we fight them? They can coordinate perfectly. They share all tactical information instantly." Wan was silent for a moment. Then she smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe we don't fight them with coordination. Maybe we fight them with chaos." She sent her findings to Admiral Wu Jin and Captain Day Wan, who was now commanding ground forces in the Seoul sector. Meanwhile, in the subway tunnels beneath the city, a civilian engineer named Hyun Woo was trying to survive. He had refused to evacuate, partly from stubbornness, partly because his elderly mother couldn't travel. Now he was trapped in the underground with dozens of other refugees. The Krell controlled the streets above. Hyun Woo could hear them sometimes, their footsteps echoing in perfect rhythm through the tunnel ceilings. He had managed to salvage some equipment from an abandoned electronics store, a radio transmitter, some old music players, cables, and batteries. Hyun Woo had always been good with technology. Now he tinkered with it to keep himself from thinking about how hungry everyone was getting. The Krell found them on the 4th day of occupation. Soldiers entered the subway station in formation, weapons raised. The refugees huddled together, terrified. Hyun Woo's hand accidentally hit the transmitter's power button. Music blasted through the speakers he had been repairing, an old K-pop song, bright and cheerful and completely out of place. The Krell stopped. Their weapons lowered slightly. They turned toward the sound, and for a moment, they seemed confused. Their formation broke. One soldier stepped left while another stepped right. It lasted only a few seconds before they regained their coordination, but Hyun Woo saw it. The music had disrupted them somehow. When the Krell moved to investigate the sound source, Hyun Woo grabbed his mother and ran. Behind him, he could hear the aliens' footsteps, no longer in perfect sync. The music still played, echoing through the tunnels. He made it to another station and immediately sent a message through the emergency network. "This is Hyun Woo, civilian engineer. I'm in the Metro Red Line. The aliens, they react to music. It confuses them. Someone needs to know this." The message reached Dr. Wan within the hour. She read it 3 times, then called her team together again. "Get me every recording we have of Krell communications, audio only." They worked through the night. Wan listened to the Krell broadcasts. Their tactical communications, everything. She used software to analyze the patterns. "There," she said, pointing at the screen. "Their communications aren't just language. They're rhythmic, mathematical. Every word, every syllable fits a precise pattern. That's how they maintain their network, through perfectly ordered information exchange. And human music doesn't fit that pattern," her assistant realized. "Exactly. Our music is emotional, chaotic. It has unexpected rhythms, volume changes, emotional content. To the Krell network, it must be like static, like trying to read a book while someone shouts random numbers at you. Across the city, journalist Mireille was doing something dangerous. She was filming the Krell. Her camera crew was gone, fled, or dead, but she kept recording. People needed to see what was happening. The world needed to witness this. She captured footage of Krell patrols, their mechanical precision. She filmed humans trying to flee, the desperation in their faces. She recorded Corporal Yuna's unit making a desperate stand to cover evacuating children. But most importantly, she recorded something strange. A group of civilians had been trapped in a shopping district. They were playing music loudly, defiantly, from a damaged store. And the Krell soldiers surrounding them seemed uncertain, their movements less coordinated. Mireille sent her footage to the news networks, to the military, to anyone who would listen. Captain Day-Wan received it in his temporary command post. He watched the footage, then read Dr. Hay-Wan's report, then Hyun-Woo's message. Pieces of a puzzle began fitting together. He called Admiral Wu Jin. "Sir, I think we've found something. The Krell weakness isn't in their technology. It's in their biology. Their network can't process disorder." "Are you suggesting we fight them with music?" Wu Jin sounded skeptical. "I'm suggesting we fight them with chaos, with unpredictability, with everything that makes us human and makes them not." Admiral Wu Jin was silent for a long moment. Then, "Submit your proposal. If Dr. Hay-Wan confirms it's viable, we'll implement it. We have nothing else to lose." That night, Corporal Yuna led her squad on a raid, but they didn't follow standard tactics. Each soldier moved independently, using different approaches, different timing. Some ran, some crept, some moved erratically. They attacked a Krell position expecting disaster. Instead, they found the aliens confused. The Krell couldn't predict what the humans would do next because the humans themselves didn't know. There was no pattern to analyze, no strategy to counter. Yuna's squad struck hard and vanished into the night, leaving the Krell formation in disarray. In her lab, Dr. Hay-Wan worked on what she called cognitive disruption packages. She compiled human cultural data, music, art, poetry, films, into compressed broadcasts. Things that made no logical sense, but were full of emotion and meaning. She tested one on a captured Krell soldier. The alien's body went rigid, its eyes flickered. For 30 seconds, it didn't respond to its network. When it reconnected, it seemed slower, less certain. "It works," Hay-Wan breathed. "We can fight them, not with bigger guns, but with who we are." Above Earth, the Krell fleet maintained its blockade. The aliens believed victory was certain. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using superior technology and perfect coordination. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had never encountered a species that turned its own disorganization into a weapon. They didn't understand that chaos could be a strength. The war was about to change in ways the Krell could never predict. Admiral Wu Jin stood before the holographic displays in the Global Defense Command. Representatives from every remaining military force on Earth watched him, waiting. The Krell controlled most major cities now. Humanity was losing the conventional war. "Forget everything you know about military strategy," Wu Jin said. "From this moment, there are no standard formations, no unified tactics, no predictable patterns. Every unit operates independently. Every soldier fights their own way. Make it impossible for the Krell to predict us." A general from the European forces frowned. "Sir, that's chaos. That's the opposite of military discipline." "Exactly," Wu Jin replied. "Chaos is what they can't handle." He issued the orders that would change the war. The Chaos Protocol, they called it. Every commander had complete freedom to engage the enemy however they chose. Soldiers were encouraged to be creative, unpredictable, even irrational. The Krell were about to face humanity's true nature. Fighter pilot Jae-sung received the new orders in his cockpit. His squadron leader had been killed 3 days ago. Now Jae-sung was in command of 12 pilots, flying modified interceptors against an enemy they couldn't match in firepower. "Listen up," he told his squadron. "Forget formation flying. Forget wing positions. I want each of you to fly like you've lost your minds. Be unpredictable, be crazy. Make them guess what you'll do next because you won't even know yourself." They launched against a Krell patrol group. Normally, the alien fighters moved in perfect geometric patterns, each ship positioned precisely to support the others. They expected human fighters to do the same. Instead, Jae-sung's squadron scattered like dropped marbles. One pilot flew straight up, another dove toward the atmosphere. A third flew in spirals. Jae-sung himself flew backward, using his retro thrusters, firing over his shoulder. The Krell formation broke. They couldn't maintain their perfect coordination while trying to track 12 targets all doing different, illogical things. In the confusion, Jae-sung's pilots scored their first real victories. 3 Krell fighters went down. The human squadron escaped with only one loss. On the ground in Seoul, Corporal Yuna worked with an unlikely ally. Sang-woo was 70 years old, a veteran of old wars who had refused to evacuate. He now led a civilian resistance cell of ordinary people, teachers, shopkeepers, students, grandmothers. "We're going to hold a concert," Sang-woo announced. Yuna stared at him. "A concert? We're in the middle of a war." "Exactly. The Krell won't expect it," he smiled. "We set up in City Hall Square. We play music, we sing, we draw them in. Then you and your soldiers hit them from behind." It was insane. It was also brilliant. They did it at sunset. Sang-woo's people set up amplifiers and instruments. They played everything: classical music, rock, traditional Korean songs, children's rhymes. The sound echoed through the occupied streets. The Krell came to investigate, moving in formation as always, but the music disrupted their coordination. Some soldiers moved toward the sound while others held position. Their network couldn't process the emotional content of what they were hearing. Yuna's squad struck from 3 different directions, using 3 different strategies. They hit hard and vanished before the Krell could respond. More importantly, Sang-woo's concert was broadcast. Mi-rae was there with her camera, sending the footage worldwide. People saw civilians fighting back with music and art, saw the aliens confused and vulnerable. Hope spread faster than any military victory could have achieved. In an apartment building taken over by resistance fighters, a young hacker named Taemin worked at his computers. Before the invasion, he had run a popular social media collective. Now, he weaponized memes and viral content. "The Krell network is like the internet," he explained to his team. "It shares information, so let's give them information they can't process." He created packages of human cultural data, memes that made no logical sense, videos that were emotionally powerful but contextually absurd, images that required cultural knowledge to understand. Cat videos, protest art, comedy sketches, love poems, angry rants, beautiful sunsets paired with terrible puns. Then he found a way to inject these packages into the Krell communications network. The effect was immediate. Krell units that received the data slowed down. Their coordination suffered. Some aliens simply stopped, as if trying to process what they had just experienced. Taemin's favorite weapon became something he called the emotional bomb, a compilation of human emotions expressed through art, music, and media. Joy, sorrow, anger, love, fear, hope, all compressed into a single overwhelming package. When Krell soldiers encountered it, their shared consciousness struggled to categorize it. Was it a threat? A communication? An attack? The network couldn't decide, so it froze. Dr. Haewon refined Taemin's work in her laboratory. She brought in Eunji, a psychologist who specialized in emotional response. "The Krell experience emotions through their network," Eunji explained. "When one feels something, they all feel it, diluted across billions of minds. but they've never experienced individual emotional intensity. Show them what one human feels, and it overwhelms them. Together, they created what HFY called cognitive viruses. These weren't computer viruses. They were packages of human experience so complex and contradictory that the Krell consciousness couldn't process them. Philosophy debates that had no clear answers. Abstract art that meant different things to different people. Dadaist poetry that deliberately made no sense. Comedy that required cultural context. Music that broke traditional patterns. Stories about sacrifice and love and hope and loss. They broadcast these cognitive viruses during battles. Krell forces began making mistakes. Their perfect coordination fractured. Some units retreated when they should have advanced. Others held position when tactical logic demanded movement. The war was changing. Engineer Hyun-woo emerged from the subway tunnels with a gift for the resistance. He had spent weeks studying Krell technology scavenged from destroyed vehicles. Now he understood something crucial. Their weapons and shields use the same network, he told Captain Dae-won. Everything is connected. If we overload the network in one area, it affects their equipment too. He built hybrid devices, human creativity combined with Krell technology. Weapons that fired in unpredictable patterns. Shields that changed frequency randomly. Vehicles that moved erratically. The Krell network couldn't predict or counter equipment that didn't follow logical patterns. In Tokyo, a Krell carrier group prepared to destroy what remained of the city's defenses. Then, Mirai broadcast went live. She showed humanity fighting back, not with desperation, but with defiance. Children drawing on walls in occupied zones, musicians playing in bomb shelters, strangers helping each other escape, families staying together despite everything. She showed laughter in the darkness, art created from rubble, couples getting married in refugee camps, teachers holding classes for children who had lost their schools. The broadcast spread across Earth and beyond. The Krell intercepted it. Their network tried to analyze what it meant. These humans facing extinction but still creating, still loving, still laughing, still being individuals. The analysis caused something the Krell had never experienced. Network lag. Too much contradictory data. Too many individual perspectives. Too much emotion that couldn't be logically processed. For the first time in their history, the Krell consciousness experienced doubt. Captain Dae-won coordinated the largest offensive since the invasion began, but it wasn't a traditional assault. Every unit did something different. Some attacked at night, some during the day. Some used music and art as distractions. Others used conventional weapons in unconventional ways. Some units retreated when winning to confuse enemy analysis. There was no pattern, no strategy the Krell could identify and counter, just chaos, creativity, and the stubborn refusal of 10 billion individuals to be conquered. Above the Pacific, Jae-sung's squadron engaged the Krell fleet directly. They flew toward a massive carrier, the ship's weapons tracking them. Then the pilots did something insane. They broadcast music. They sent emotional messages. They flew patterns that spelled out words in their contrails, words of defiance, hope, and humanity. The carrier's shield systems flickered, just for a moment, but long enough. Jae-sung fired everything he had. The carrier's hull breached. It wouldn't be destroyed, but it was damaged, hurt by weapons that shouldn't have been able to touch it. As his squadron retreated, Jae-sung laughed. Pure, joyful human laughter transmitted on open channels for the Krell to hear. The aliens didn't understand laughter. Their network tried to analyze it. Was it a war cry? A celebration? A sign of madness? They couldn't tell. And that uncertainty was humanity's greatest weapon. The Krell were adapting. Admiral Woo Jin watched the tactical reports with growing concern. The aliens had begun isolating units from their main network, creating semi-autonomous forces that could operate without constant connection to the collective consciousness. It made them weaker in coordination, but less vulnerable to cognitive disruption. The war was changing again. Then the reports came in from deep space observatories. A massive energy signature was approaching Earth, something bigger than any Krell ship they had seen. "It's the size of a city," the sensor operator reported. "No, bigger. A small country." The Krell Imperial Dreadnought entered orbit 3 days later. It was a vessel that defied comprehension, its hull covered in weapons, its shields visible as a shimmer of energy around its massive frame. This was a ship built to destroy planets. The broadcast came immediately. The Krell Empress herself appeared on every screen on Earth. Her face was different from the soldiers, more regal, with markings that glowed with bioluminescent patterns. "Humans," she said, and her voice carried absolute authority. "You have fought better than expected. But this ends now. You have 24 hours to surrender. If you refuse, this ship will sterilize your planet. Every city, every structure, every living thing will be erased. Choose wisely." The broadcast ended. Silence fell over the command center. "We need to evacuate," one of the generals said. "Get as many people off-world as possible." "To where?" Wu Jin asked quietly. "In 24 hours? We could maybe save a few million. What about the other billions?" Captain Daewon joined the meeting via video link. His face was streaked with dirt and exhaustion. "We fight. We've hurt them. We can't hurt them again." "Not that ship," Wu Jin said. "Our weapons can't even scratch it. The cognitive viruses won't work on a vessel that large. The network there is too powerful, too distributed." In her laboratory, Dr. Hei Wan studied the Empress's broadcast for the 100th time. Something about it nagged at her. The Empress spoke with authority, yes, but also with something else. Curiosity? Confusion? "She doesn't understand us," Hei Wan muttered. "She's trying to. That's why she came personally." An idea formed, dangerous and desperate. She called Admiral Wu Jin. "I have a proposal. It's insane, but everything we've done has been insane." "I'm listening." "The Empress wants to understand humanity. What if we show her? Not through combat or data, but directly. Neural connection. Mind to mind." "That's suicide," Wu Jin said. "Maybe. But if I can connect to their network, I can deliver the ultimate cognitive virus. Not data about human emotion, actual human consciousness. Everything that makes us who we are, dumped directly into their collective mind." "What would that do to you?" Hei Wan smiled sadly. "I don't know. Probably nothing good. But if it saves Earth—" She didn't need to finish. Wu Jin was quiet for a long moment. "I can't order you to do this." "You're not ordering me. I'm volunteering." Plans formed quickly. They would need to get Hei Wan onto the Empress's ship. That meant a team to escort her through the Krell defenses. It meant a diversion large enough to occupy the aliens' attention. Captain Daewon volunteered to lead the escort team. "I got us into this by failing to defend Earth's orbit. Let me help finish it." Engineer Hyun Woo provided the key, a stealth shuttle built from hybrid human-Krell technology. It could, maybe, slip through the Dreadnought's sensors for a little while. Pilot Jae Sung would fly it. "I've done every crazy thing you've asked," he said. "Might as well end with the craziest." The global diversion was Taimin's masterpiece. Every human being, worldwide, would engage in an act of pure individual expression at exactly the same time, a coordinated display of chaos. "We're asking 10 billion people to all be themselves at once," Taimin explained. "To create, to destroy, to love, to rage, to hope, to fear. All of it. Everything that makes us human. We broadcast it all on every frequency. The Krell network will have to process 10 billion unique, unpredictable minds acting simultaneously." Corporal Yuna organized the ground forces. They would attack every Krell position at once, each unit using completely different tactics. Maximum chaos, Maximum confusion. Mireille would broadcast it all. She would show the world, and the Krell, what humanity looked like when fighting for survival. The plan was insane. It relied on timing, luck, and the hope that human consciousness was strange enough to overwhelm an alien network that had existed for thousands of years. "We have one shot at this," Wu Jin told the team. "If it fails, the Empress destroys Earth. If it succeeds—" He paused. "I'm not sure what happens then." The night before the mission, Hai Wan prepared herself. She filled her mind with memories. Her childhood in Busan, her parents who had died in an accident, her first love. Her heartbreak, her triumph when she earned her doctorate, her fears, her hopes, her dreams. She thought about humanity, its wars and art, its cruelty and kindness, its logic and madness. She thought about music and mathematics, poetry and physics, love and hate, creation and destruction. She would carry all of it into the Krell network. Daewon's team assembled in silence, 5 soldiers, each one knowing this was likely a one-way trip. They checked weapons, armor, and equipment with practiced efficiency. Jae-sung ran pre-flight on the hybrid shuttle. It was ugly, cobbled together from scavenged parts, but it flew. That was all that mattered. Across Earth, billions of people received their instructions. At the appointed time, they would do whatever felt most human. Create art, play music, dance, shout, cry, laugh, pray, rage, love, hope. The Krell would see humanity at its most chaotic and most beautiful. The mission launched at dawn. Jae-sung piloted the shuttle through Earth's atmosphere, while every military unit on the planet attacked simultaneously. The Krell forces, already struggling with their semi-autonomous operations, were overwhelmed. On the ground, Sang-woo led civilians in a massive festival in occupied Seoul. They played music, performed theater, created art from rubble. Krell soldiers surrounded them but didn't fire, confused by this response to their ultimatum. Yuna's forces hit a Krell command center using tactics that made no tactical sense, but worked anyway. Hyunwoo's hybrid weapons disrupted their network locally. Taemin's broadcasts filled Krell communications with human cultural chaos, and 10 billion humans, all at once, expressed their individuality. The shuttle approached the dreadnought. Its shields were down, focused on defending against the planetary assault. Jae-sung slipped through, his hands shaking but steady. "We're in," he whispered. The team moved through corridors of alien metal and bioluminescent technology. Krell soldiers guarded the way, but they were distracted, their network overloaded with data from Earth. Daewon's team fought through, losing one soldier, then another. They reached the Empress's chamber. She waited there, surrounded by technology that pulsed with neural connections. She looked at the humans with her multiple eyes. "You wish to speak?" she asked. "Then speak." Hai Wan stepped forward. "Not speak. Show." She activated the neural interface Hyunwoo had built. Connections formed, bridging human and Krell biology. Hai Wan felt the vastness of the Krell consciousness touching her mind. Then she opened her thoughts completely. Everything she was, everything humanity was, poured into the network. Memories, emotions, contradictions, chaos, love and hate existing simultaneously, logic and madness intertwined, the beauty of art that served no purpose, the pain of loss, the joy of creation, the complexity of being one individual among billions, each one different, each one whole. The Empress's eyes widened, the network convulsed. Across the Krell Empire, billions of connected minds experienced something impossible, individual human consciousness. Hai Wan screamed. It was too much. The network was too vast. She was drowning in it. Daewon grabbed her. "Doctor, we need to go." But Hai Wan couldn't move. She was connected, locked in. Her mind merged with the vast alien collective, and through her, humanity was speaking to an empire that had never heard such a voice. The message was simple. We are here. We are individuals. We are alive. And you cannot take that from us. The Krell network collapsed. Not violently, not catastrophically, but fundamentally. Across the galaxy, billions of Krell minds experienced something that should have been impossible for their species: individuality. The Empress staggered backward, her hands clutching her head. For the first time in her existence, she felt alone, separate, one mind instead of billions working together. It terrified her. It amazed her. Through Dr. Haywan's connection, she had experienced everything: a human childhood full of wonder and fear, the death of loved ones and the crushing weight of grief. The illogical joy of music, the passionate irrationality of love, the simultaneous existence of hope and despair. She had felt what it meant to be one person, making choices without the guidance of a collective consciousness. The loneliness of it, the freedom of it. "What have you done to us?" the Empress whispered, but she no longer spoke with absolute authority. She spoke with confusion, wonder, fear, emotions she was experiencing individually for the first time. Captain Day-Wan pulled Dr. Haywan away from the neural interface. She collapsed in his arms, unconscious but alive. Her mind had survived the connection, though what it had cost her no one yet knew. "We need to leave," Day-Wan ordered. "Now!" But the Krell soldiers guarding the chamber didn't move to stop them. They stood frozen, each one experiencing the same crisis as their Empress. They were individuals now, or at least beginning to be. They didn't know how to act without the network telling them what to do. Pilot Jae-sung brought the shuttle around for extraction. As the team fled the dreadnought, he watched in amazement as the massive ship's weapons went dark. The Krell weren't attacking anymore. They weren't doing anything. On Earth, the Krell occupation forces stopped fighting. Soldiers stood in the streets, weapons lowered, as if waking from a dream. Some removed their helmets for the first time, breathing air as individuals rather than as extensions of a collective. Corporal Yuna approached a Krell soldier cautiously. It looked at her, really looked, with individual focus rather than network awareness. "Why?" it asked, its voice halting and uncertain. "Why do you fight so hard when you are not connected? How can you bear being alone?" Yuna lowered her weapon. "We're not alone. We choose our connections. Family, friends, love. We choose." The word choose seemed to echo. The Krell soldier repeated it, testing the concept of individual choice. Across the Krell Empire, the collective consciousness fragmented. Not completely, not immediately, but irreversibly. Some Krell clung to the network, terrified of individuality. Others embraced it, experiencing freedom for the first time. Most existed in confusion, trapped between what they had been and what they were becoming. Their empire, built on perfect coordination and collective will, destabilized. Not through violence, but through evolution. Krell ships stopped mid-conquest. Krell worlds questioned their purpose. The great machine of empire froze as billions of individuals asked themselves, "What do I want?" Admiral Wu Jin stood in the Global Command Center, watching reports flood in. The Krell were withdrawing, not retreating, simply stopping. Their ships remained in orbit but made no aggressive moves. Then a communication came from the dreadnought, the Empress, speaking without the absolute certainty she had shown before. "We wish to negotiate," she said. "But I do not know how. My mind is separate now. I think thoughts that are only mine. I feel emotions that the network cannot process. What have you done to us?" Wu Jin took a deep breath. "We showed you what we are, what it means to be human, individual, free." "Free," the Empress repeated. "Is this freedom? This loneliness? This chaos?" Yes, Wu Jin said. And also the possibility of genuine choice, genuine connection, not network obligation, but chosen companionship. The negotiations began, not as conqueror and conquered, but as two species trying to understand each other. Earth offered to help the Krell transition to individuality, slowly and carefully. The Krell offered their technology, their knowledge, their partnership. Dr. Hei-Wan woke 3 days later. When she opened her eyes, she gasped. She could still feel it, the echo of the Krell network in her mind. She was changed, transformed by the connection. Part of her would always be linked to them now. "How many?" she asked Captain Day-Wan, who had stayed by her bedside. "How many what? How many Krell chose individuality?" "About 30% so far. Another 40% are trying to maintain the network but can't fully suppress individual thought anymore. The rest are in crisis, not knowing what to do." Hei-Wan smiled weakly. "We broke their empire by teaching them to be themselves. That's the most human thing we could have done." Months passed. Earth began to heal. The Krell who embraced individuality stayed, wanting to learn from humanity. They struggled with concepts like privacy, personal choice, and emotional relationships. Humans taught them patiently. Some Krell chose to keep the network, but on a voluntary basis. Individuals who could connect when they wished, but disconnect when they wanted to be alone. It was a compromise between their nature and their newfound freedom. Captain Day-Wan retired from military service. He opened a center for veterans, both human and Krell. Soldiers from both sides came together, processing trauma, learning to live in peace. One day, a young Krell veteran approached him. "How do you live with the memories? When I was connected, pain was shared among billions. Now it is mine alone. How do you bear it?" Day-Wan smiled sadly. "You talk about it. You share it by choice, not by network. You find people who understand. You carry it together." "By choice," the Krell said softly. "I am still learning choice." Pilot Jae-sung became a flight instructor, teaching both species. Human students learned precision from the Krell. Krell students learned improvisation from humans. Together, they created a new kind of pilot, one who could coordinate when needed but adapt independently when required. Corporal Yuna wrote a memoir about the war. It became mandatory reading in both cultures. She described not just battles, but the moment she realized the Krell weren't monsters. They were prisoners of their own biology, freed by human chaos. Engineer Hyunwoo led joint research teams. Human creativity combined with Krell knowledge produced technology neither species could have created alone. Ships that could think creatively, AI that could feel emotion, weapons transformed into tools for exploration. Hacker Tae-min created the first interspecies internet. It was chaos, memes mixing with Krell logic, human emotion blending with alien efficiency. It made no perfect sense, and that was exactly the point. It celebrated diversity rather than unity. Journalist Mi Ray's documentary of the war won every award possible. But more importantly, it taught both species about each other. Krell watched it to understand emotion. Humans watched it to remember why fighting for freedom mattered. The Krell Empress, who now chose to be called Subin, a name she selected herself, liking its sound, met with human leaders regularly. She still struggled with individuality, sometimes reverting to collective thinking under stress. But she was trying. "I have a confession," she told Admiral Wu Jin during one meeting. "Our empire conquered many worlds. We believed we brought order to chaos, but we were wrong." "How so?" "We did not bring order. We brought emptiness, perfect coordination without individual purpose. You humans showed us something we never understood, that strength comes not from unity of thought, but from diversity of minds choosing to work together." Wu Jin nodded. "Your species operated on network logic. Ours on individual choice. Neither is better. Both have value. Su Bin smiled, a gesture she had learned from humans. That is diplomatic, but be honest. Our way nearly destroyed us. Your chaos saved both our species. Dr. Wan, still changed by her neural connection, became the ambassador between species. She understood both perspectives, human individuality and Krell collective thought. She helped Krell learn to be individuals without losing all connection. She helped humans understand that sometimes coordination mattered. One day, a human child and a young Krell played together in a park in Seoul. The Krell child, newly individual, asked questions constantly. Why do humans argue if you value working together? The human child, maybe 7 years old, answered with the simple wisdom of youth. Because we're free to disagree, free to be wrong, free to learn. That's the point. But doesn't it hurt? Being alone in your mind? We're not alone. We have friends, family, people we choose to be with. And when we're together, it's because we want to be, not because we have to be. The Krell child processed this. I think I understand. Freedom means choice. Choice means responsibility. Responsibility means growth. Sure, the human child said, not really following the philosophy. Want to play tag? They ran off together, two individuals from different species, choosing to be friends. Above Earth, human and Krell ships patrolled together. Not in perfect formation, the humans flew with individual flair, while the Krell maintained some coordination. But they protected the same space, worked toward the same goals. The galaxy watched in amazement. News spread of what happened to the Krell Empire. How humanity defeated a superior force not through better weapons, but through the simple power of being individuals. Other collective species became nervous. Other individual species became hopeful. Earth had proven that diversity, chaos, and individual free will were not weaknesses, but fundamental strengths. In her office, Dr. Wan reviewed reports about the wider galaxy. Most species operated on some form of collective consciousness, valuing unity over individuality. They had built empires on coordination and shared purpose. We're rare, she told her assistant. True individual consciousness, true free will, it's uncommon in the galaxy. Is that why the Krell couldn't handle us? Exactly. They expected pattern and found chaos. They expected logic and found emotion. They expected obedience to group dynamics and found 10 billion individuals all making their own choices. Years passed. Earth became a center for cultural exchange. Species came to learn about individuality, diversity, and the strength of chaos. Some embraced it fully. Others took only parts. All were changed by the encounter. The war that nearly destroyed Earth became known across the galaxy as the Awakening. The moment when one species learned that true power wasn't in perfect coordination, but in imperfect individuals choosing to work together. Monuments were built, not to victory, but to the lessons learned. Statues showed humans and Krell standing together, different but united by choice rather than network. Admiral Wu Jin, now retired, gave a speech at one monument's dedication. We did not defeat the Krell through superior weapons. We showed them something they had never experienced, what it means to be truly alive. One mind, one choice, one individual making their own path. That is humanity's real power, not our technology, not our weapons, but our stubborn insistence on being ourselves, even when it would be easier to conform. The crowd, human and Krell, young and old, soldier and civilian, applauded, each individual choosing to show appreciation in their own way. Somewhere in the crowd, Corporal Yuna stood with the Krell soldier she had first spoken to after the war. They had become friends, an unlikely bond between former enemies. Do you regret it? Yuna asked. Losing the network? Being individual? The Krell was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I miss the certainty, the belonging. But then I think about choice, about choosing my friends, choosing my purpose, choosing my thoughts. No, I do not regret it. You showed us how to be free. Above them, stars shone in a sky no longer blocked by invasion fleets. Earth had survived. More than that, it had changed the galaxy by simply being what it always was, beautifully, chaotically, impossibly human. And in that chaos, both species found their real power, the freedom to choose who they wanted to be.